Alrighty, Mets fans, welcome back to the channel. First stream with 20,000 subscribers. Thank you guys all so much for that. Pat yourselves on the back if you're part of this community. Thank you all so much for the endless support. Seriously means the world to me. Cannot wait for what is in store for the future of this channel as we're only 2 years in. And no better way to start talking about the Metropolitans under 20K by breaking down a massive acquisition in the one, the only Shohei. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, OMAR NARVAEZ to a 2-year, $15 million deal with a player option after the 2023 season. So for 2024, right? But seriously, I have a lot of interesting thoughts to say on this move. Normally, I wouldn't go out of my way to go live when you're signing a catcher who did just have a 200 average this past year. However, OMAR NARVAEZ throughout his career has been a far better hitter. I expect a bounce back year for him. But more than anything, the Mets have more moves to be had here. So that is exactly why I felt it was worthy of us hopping on, having discussion for Mets fans and for people on replay. Let me know your raw thoughts in the comments below. But as Dave alludes to right here, yes, could this mean McCann is bye-bye? Yes, this very well can. So we're going to get into it. I do see you guys telling me to check some tweets, so I'm going to do that here in a second. Thank you all so much for the donos ahead of time. Greatly appreciate it. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. If you're watching the show live or on replay, help us get to a couple hundred likes to my roughly 800 live viewers. And of course, help us get now to our next short-term goal of 25,000 subscribers. Thank you all so much in advance. But this is a very interesting move. Who the fuck is Narvaez is what someone said. He is Jolly Olive, in case you don't know. Jokes, but seriously, shout out Jolly, another great Mets fan and content creator. They look similar. There's memes about that, so it's kind of funny how Jolly is quite literally now on the Mets roster, right? But my raw reactions to this is OMAR NARVAEZ gives me Michael Perez vibes right away, but what higher upside with his bat, because he has been a better hitter in his career, had a fantastic 2021 season, given his role as a catcher. In 2022, however, in a more shortened sample size, not nearly as good for Narvaez. So let's break down what has been the hole in Narvaez's game from an offensive, defensive standpoint. What does this mean for the Mets? How much time is Narvaez going to get for this upcoming season? I'm going to share my raw thoughts on that. And ultimately, what it means for the Mets now going forward, as they are one player over the 40-man, which automatically tells you that, yes, the Mets are destined to make moves, whether that's cutting guys off the 40-man, whether that's making trades, whatever it's going to be, the Mets have 40-man moves that they are going to be doing. So that's something that we'll be following tonight. And of course, in the coming days, because they have to make sure that moves are done for this 40-man to make room for not only Narvaez, but also Kodai Senga. So just keep that in mind, folks. The Mets are over the 40-man, which means that more moves are going to be had here. So what moves are those going to be? Are they going to be just parting ways with some relievers, getting them off of the 40-man? Is it going to be train James McCann, which is very much a likelihood? All that's what we're going to be getting into here in a second. Yoshima, thank you for the dono. This move happened for a reason. Trust in Billy Epper. He knows what he's doing. He's clearly proven that already. And congrats on 20K, Worry. Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much, Yoshima. And again, if Martino tweet anything of significance, please tag me on Twitter, guys. Martino, I'm not able to see his tweets. I haven't been able for a while. Michael Marino, I'll check if Marino said anything. But congrats on 20K. Thank you so much. I smell 50, then 100 in the future, brother. FYI to all Met who fans, we have Alvarez. Yep, he's our number one prospect in all baseball and not defensive. Yep, he needs to work on his defensive game. That is the biggest hole with Francisco Alvarez. And of course, getting him, even though he's swing and miss, it really doesn't matter much because he has ridiculous power for a 21-year-old. But thank you again for that dono. I appreciate that. Hype in the chat to you. Let's see here. Give me 1 second, everybody. Okay, let's talk. And also the highlights, I threw them up right away, so I don't know exactly how accurate the OMAR NARVAEZ highlights are. They seem like that they're okay. I just picked some from the 2022 season, so bear with me if they're not like the prettiest or whatever. I just had to grab what I could grab right away. So let me check Twitter real quick, then we'll get more into this move for the Mets. And I'm actually going to put up a poll right now, and I want you guys to answer that. So let's get into that right away and help us get to 400 likes for the next short-term goal, folks. My roughly 1,000 viewers, less than half of you guys smash that button. Greatly appreciate it, and help us get a 25K for a next short-term goal. But let me put a poll up in here to see your raw reactions, as the Mets quite literally just made this move for Narvaez, $8 million next year when the guy had a piss-poor 2022 campaign. Why did they do this? What is the meaning? That's what we'll get into. MVP season for him next year? Exactly. And here, I don't love this move by any stretch for the Mets. I don't think Narvaez is the best thing since sliced bread. This is clearly a depth move for them. Feels like an overpay, but at the same time, Mets have done phenomenal this offseason, so I'm not going to discredit them much yet until we find out furthermore on what this means for the 40-man. Along with Omar Narvaez being a lefty bat in itself has me intrigued as a fan because Michael Perez, which hit a guy that hit well below the Mendoza line, felt like forever when he was acquired by the Mets via trade during the summer from the Pirates. When this guy actually got playing time, he was better than James McCann in a large parts, was that being in Michael Perez. And again, he was a nobody, and it tells you just how bad the Mets catching position has been, not named Tomas Nido. So they can take anything at this point, and I fully expect Omar Narvaez to already be better than what we were getting in James McCann, with the assumption that McCann is going to get dealt or is cut from this roster entirely. So let me get a pull up here again for you guys, and then we'll go further. Again, shout out everyone here chiming the live show. Breaking news: Mets sign Omar Narvaez, veteran lefty catcher, to a lefty by the chance of hitting, not by throwing, to a 2-year, $15 million deal with an option for the 2024 season as a player option. So he's likely not going to opt out, I'd imagine. But let's see. What's your thoughts on this deal? Mets believe they have found a taker for James McCann, according to MLB Scoops. I don't know how accurate that is, but if that is actually massive. If the Mets get James McCann off their hands, this makes perfect sense then, and that's truly what I believe is going to happen here. Now, what did they do with James McCann? Did they just dump James McCann somewhere? Were they able to they pair him with Carrasco to get a solid return? Like what? We don't know just yet, but hopefully we find out tonight or tomorrow. That would be fantastic. Okay, there we go. Now we're getting the pull up. Should be there in a second. Again, shout out everyone for the donations. Give me 1 second. JD Martinez and next. Mets are definitely have more moves to be had on the offensive front. This is not to move the needle offensively for the Mets. I can tell you that right now. So, and again, appreciate all the donos, guys. Thank you so much for them. So let's talk more on this deal. Again, Omar Narvaez, what you see from a stat line, piss poor 2022 campaign. You know, limited role, more so of a backup catcher, right? 4 home runs, 23 RBIs, literally a 600 OPS. But what's interesting about Nomar Narvaez is I fully expect him, even in a limited role, assuming that he is the backup for the Mets to Tomas Nido, where they're both kind of splitting time, but hopefully Nido gets more time. And then, of course, if Francisco Alvarez balls out in spring training, we'll have a spot on this team. Mets, I can definitely see a role where the Mets rotate a 3-catcher situation where you have, say, Francisco Alvarez DHing until that defense really gets right. Or you have even times where you want to have a Nido or Narvaez DH depending on your DH role. But I hope that isn't the case. I think the Mets are going to, I know they're going to add more offensively. So I'm okay with rotating the 3 catchers. And then Alvarez, once he truly proves himself, he gets more of the playing time. That's something that I think is going to gradually continue throughout the regular season for sure. I'll be a little surprised if right from the jump in spring, he's a guaranteed to be at minimum the backup. I think he has more likelihood of game playing time in that DH position, or if he needs to start the year in AAA to still work on defense, then that's something that they could do. What a schmuck deal, says front page. That's funny. You guys know I love that schmuck terminology. I don't have my schmuck shirt on. I got to do a wash. That's why I'm wearing stuff that you normally don't see me wear, guys. But seriously, John, thank you for the donut. The only way McCann's trades if Cookie's a part of it, but I say go get Gary Sanchez and sign every catcher. And congrats, Rory. Mets aren't going to sign any more catchers. They just signed their catcher in Narvaez, and I'm fine with this. Gary Sanchez is the opposite of good defensively catching too. We remember when Javi Baez, no, it was Jonathan VR, famously got that slide into home in the Subway Series in 2021 because Sanchez didn't know what he was doing. John, thank you for that. Don't know though, I appreciate it, but Mets seem like that they certainly have more moves on the horizon. John, okay, fair enough. If that was a joke, my bad. It's hard to understand jokes over text, especially here on YouTube, so bear with me there. But let me get into let me check a couple tweets because I want to make sure I'm staying on top of this. Yeah, apparently Mets already found a taker for McCann. Yep, Eddie, shout out Eddie Krause, the Kid Caster, for hitting my line on that one. Let me see here. And again, I don't know how accurate that is, so that's a wait and see regarding McCann if he's going to be dealt. But you'd have to imagine that something's going to be happening with him because I don't see a world. There's no chance in hell the Mets just signed Narvaez at $8 million for the 2023 season alone without parting ways with McCann. Whether he's completely cut entirely or he's dealt, there's just no chance that makes any sense. He hit 22 homers for Seattle in 20. Yep. 100%. A couple of things to make note of, though, Ricardo, and we'll get into his numbers. 2019 was with Juice Baseballs, and that was his outlier year by far. He's never put up that type of home run power. And again, I don't expect, if Narvaez gives you 10 to 15 home runs, that's fine. I think what you want with Narvaez is what his career norm has been, as pretty much a 260 hitter with a 343 OBP and a just under 400 slugging. That's more than enough productivity from the catching spot, especially as a guy that's not expected to be your number one catcher, right? I like Nido more than Narvaez right away. So, you look at Omar Narvaez from his 2021 season with Milwaukee, okay? This is why I fully expect him to have a bounce back year, because 2022 was not in the norm for him, and he could have been dealing with some ailments too. I don't have the full background on Narvaez, so I'll have to look that up as we're going live here. About 123 games played in 2021 with Milwaukee, 445 play appearances, a 266 average, 342 OBP, a 402 slug, including 11 home runs, 54 runs scored, and 49 RBIs. I mean, that's perfectly fine. I mean, I don't expect much from the catching position. That will be huge. That'll actually be amazing if the Mets could get a guy at 10 home runs, upwards of 50 RBIs, and a 250 plus average. Seriously. I mean, he's a high contact type catcher and has a higher OBP throughout his career. A little bit of, Christian Vasquez vibes going on there, but Vasquez isn't as good with the OBP. So overall, I don't mind this move as long as they make sure that more moves are going to come of it. And the full Bleav is that that is going to be the case. So what very well can happen is, after you guys are watching the live show, or especially on replay, let's say we're off live, we could see that McCann is already traded tonight or tomorrow, depending on when it may happen, or that he's, say, going to be cut entirely. But I do want to give a big shout out to everyone chiming in here to my 1,200 live viewers. Again, Omar Narvaez signs on a 2-year, $50 million deal. Yep, I'm getting tagged. Let's see. Yeah, and again, I'm seeing reports, and I don't. Mets may wait until there's more certainty around Francisco Alvarez's ankle to pull the trigger. However, regarding McCann, but see, if the Mets have any suitor for James McCann, I think you got to pull the trigger right away, because Narvaez and Nido are already light years ahead of what McCann would be giving you. It's as simple as that. McCann looks like a guy who would be a great catcher defensively and offensively. Big guy, looks like an action figure, but he has so many holes in his swing. He swings through fastballs right down the dick, very JD Martinez-esque. And when he does hit the ball, he hits it on the top, freaking grounding into everything imaginable. And yes, the Mets did sign the pinch hit god from the bench mob in 2021 and Jose Peraza to a minor league deal, 1-year minor league deal. Peraza returns to the Mets. We thank Jose Peraza for that monstrous home run against Josh Hader in extra innings in 2021 when the Mets had such a subpar year. Happy to have Peraza back in the minors. Just more depth for the Mets. Can't go wrong. And that's all he is. I don't expect him to get any playing time at the majors unless a lot of drastic injuries happen. But let's pray to God that does not, in fact, transpire. Ricardo, thank you for that donation once more. Let's see here. Pat Metz, thank you for the donation. Congrats on 20K. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I can see Alvarez starring in AAA to work on his catching skills, as can I, for sure. Again, we'll see what happens as we get closer to the season with Nido Narvaez at the major league level to start the season. I Bleav Elfer wants a DH who can also play the outfield. Yeah, I think there is definitely more appeal than not with a guy that can play the corner for DH. However, if the Mets have a JD Martinez on a 1-year deal, maybe with an opt-out after one, I think that would be appealing for them too, and that's why they're showing interest there. But I agree. I think it would make most sense for the Mets, DH-wise, to get a guy that has more defensive versatility. But again, just because that's what we all may think doesn't necessarily mean that's, in fact, going to be the reality. But want to give a massive shout-out to phenomenal supporter Dave on the channel, who is beyond generous enough. I really want to show you this, guys, okay? He always sends things my way. He's so sweet. Always appreciate him. Great friend of mine. But as a Christmas present, Dave went out of his way to send this custom Rawlings glove in which if I do that baseball trip with all the big content creators again this upcoming summer against a new team, which you guys will hear more about as long as I'm still going to be attending because I'm not sure yet to finalize things. But look at this custom Rollins glove that Dave was beyond kind to send, and it has the Mets logo on it. It has Wardy stitched on it. This thing is an absolute beauty. So, Dave, I want to thank you once more for this glove and everything else that you've sent. I've never really had my own personal glove that I've been able to break in myself. So this is just, I'm beyond ecstatic. I feel like I'm ready to be Narvaez right now. Let's go, even though that this isn't a catcher's mitt, obviously. But seriously, shout out to you, Dave. Love you, brother. Want to give you that quick shout. This glove is absolutely disgusting. Look at this. Look at this. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So shout out to you, Dave, once more. Greatly appreciate that. David West says you're welcome anytime, bud. That's why. Dave Kaplitz is in the chat like, excuse me. Jose, thank you for the new membership. I appreciate that. I still need to update my memberships too. I don't know which membership this says, but the DeGrom one I need to change because he is not the GOAT, nor is he with the Mets. So we got to change that to Finding Nemo. But regardless, thank you so much. Yeah, I explained already quite a bit on this deal, Lisa. So I would say go back a little bit further earlier in the show if you can, but I'm going to expand more on it. I do also want to make one more thing of note to everybody. Now that we hit 20,000 subscribers, we are doing a jersey giveaway of a Justin Verlander or Kodai Senga jersey, whichever that one lucky winner prefers. I'll be making that announcement over the next week when we will be doing this, because we're going to do this the same exact way we did our last giveaway, which was a Max Scherzer bobblehead, and that will be during a live stream. So you guys got to make sure you chime into that specific live stream, and I'm going to close my eyes, look away, and pick one random viewer. I'm going to click on their comment, and whoever's comment I clicked on randomly in the chat will automatically win that jersey, and then you will reach out to me via email or Twitter. I'll get your info, get your address, all that stuff. You tell me what your size is, what jersey you would prefer. If you can give a color suggestion, I can do that. The only thing I will say is that if you want Senga, it might be more difficult because we don't know what number he's going to wear yet. So Verlander might be more likely for you. But keep an eye out for that. It will be during a live stream. So you just got to make sure you chime into each of the shows. But I will do my best to give you guys some notice ahead of time in videos, live streams, and on the community tab when we're doing that jersey giveaway, just as an FYI once more, guys. So buckle up. And again, I like doing it through the live stream format because even with having over 1,000 viewers, your odds are still greater with me doing that to people committed, watching the content consistently versus trying to pick one random subscriber out of the 20,000 I have. Okay, so your odds are far greater by just chiming into a stream and being potentially chosen than they are by just basing things off of all the supporters I can publicly see. Let's see. Pat, thank you for the donation. Narvaez had a killer start in 2021 while having a 300 average. Yep, and 71 games to 2, along with a 400 OBP, 8 home runs and 26 RBIs. Got to find that bat again. And I think the Mets certainly like the appeal of Narvaez as a lefty bat. For me personally, again, Michael Perez wasn't anything good, but he was fine enough. He drove in some runs in those Philly series in Philly. We remember them. I really like the look of a lefty bat of a catcher. There's something appealing by that. I think Narvaez is going to be perfectly fine in the role he's in. Isn't an overpay? Oh, I'm sure. But if Narvaez just goes back to what his career slash line has been after, again, a down 2022, if you look at his norms, he's expected to bounce back. You know, had a piss poor 2020 in the shortened season. Really, really good. Really, really solid 2021. Bad 2022. So I think he's definitely going to bounce back. I really do. And I'm hoping and looking forward to seeing that transpire because throughout his career, he's been a high contact catcher. And that's exactly what you would want from the Mets here. Pat, thank you for the dono. Let's see here. Dave, thank you so much for the donation. You're very welcome. You're the go of Mets fans and you're the go of supporters, Dave. Thank you so much once more. Hype in the chat to you, brother. But guys, one more thing I want to add regarding OMAR NARVAEZ. And again, for people watching on replay, you probably don't need to bother to watch the entire live stream if we go 40 minutes to an hour, whatever it may be. Because again, I'm going to be answering a lot of questions, things of that nature. So if you want to watch the longer format, that's fine. But just raw reactions again to OMAR NARVAEZ. Let's look through his baseball savant numbers, shall we? Because again, the Mets are destined to make more moves here. I'm going to be refreshing Twitter constantly to see if I see anything more come out. So I'll definitely let you guys know about that. Yeah, a lot of people were tagging me the same stuff that I already saw. But Narvaez in 2022, you can't really see much of his savant numbers because he wasn't eligible for like anything batting because he only played in 84 games. However, he was in the 89th percentile in framing. So he was an elite defender in framing this past season. Now, if you look at the 2021 season, offensively, all of his advanced numbers look like shit. However, K percentage in 2021, well above average at 66th percentile. Strikeout percentage looking good. Walk percentage above average at 55 percentile. Whiff percentage at 59 percentile. Framing 75 percentile. So he was actually significantly better with his framing in 2022 than 2021 when he had a strong offensive year. I mean, but all of his numbers are down when you look through the advanced numbers. But again, that doesn't matter. If the Mets get a 250 bat here, a 250 bat, 10 home runs, 40 to 50 RBIs, a 325 to 340 OBP, I don't see how you can complain here. I really don't, because that's more than enough production that the Mets would be getting from their catching spot. Mets have been aggressive in their recent attempts to deal catcher James McCann, according to Michael Mayer and METS, who is a very accurate source. McCann will make $12.15 million in each of the next 2 seasons. So the Mets are really hoping to get McCann's deal traded here and done with. So that way, even though Narvaez will still be making $8 million in 2023, $7 million in 2024, should he not opt out of his player option, that's still cheaper than James McCann, and at bat, that's far more likely to be productive than James McCann in his career was never a consistent, high contact, solid OBP type hitter. He had some really solid small stints and splitting time there with Yasmani Grandal, and before that with the Chicago White Sox. Was terrible to start his career with the Detroit Tigers. If you're basing things on career norms and longevity, OMAR NARVAEZ is far and away a safer bet. While the Mets are continuing to produce Francisco Alvarez and get him to be their number 1 guy over the next couple seasons. So again, you don't need to be the best catcher in the world. You just need to be someone that can put the ball in play and not be freaking double play every single time. And that has been James McCann, unfortunately. But again, shout out to everyone here in the live chat for breaking down the Mets sign OMAR NARVAEZ, a 30-year-old left-handed hitting catcher, to a 2-year, $15 million deal with the 2024 player option. Is that a 292 batting average? I don't know what you're talking about. His bat, no, that's his OBP from 2022. But his career norms, again, he's a 260 career hitter with a 340 OBP. And, and let's look at his projections actually for this upcoming season. Okay, so through Fangraphs, and again, this can be completely wrong because Fangraphs' projections are wrong all the time. But according to Fangraphs, he is in a 104 game projection for 2023. OMAR NARVAEZ is projected to have 9 home runs, 42 runs scored, 41 RBIs, a 240 batting average, a 317 on base percentage, and a 360 slugging. Even if that happens, that's a little bit worse than what you would hope for. That's still better than James McCann. That really is. I don't know what else to say. It really feels like that. And 2.1 projected F4. Yep. Worry, my mother wouldn't let me tell someone my info. What can I do? What? I wouldn't tell someone your info either if it's anything personal. So I don't know. Oh, I'm glad you guys brought up the splits. See, this is why I like doing the live streams, because I might miss something. Let's get into the splits of OMAR NARVAEZ. Let's see how he looks at lefty versus righty. So bear with me 1 second, guys. Okay, OMAR NARVAEZ's splits for the 2022 season. I'm going to do it through Baseball Reference because I get more info that way. Jose, thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. Shout out to you, Jose. Congrats on 20K. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate that. Been here since the early 200s and will continue the ride. That's insane. You're an absolute OG. Thank you so much, my man. Hype in the chat to you, Jose. I greatly appreciate that. You're the best. Thank you, my brother. Really appreciate that. Okay, let's go to splits now. He's not good with pop time though. Oh, I get. Oh, okay. So pop time for like throwing to first, throwing to second. Yeah, but Tomas Nido is, so I think that's fine. Again, I don't have high expectations for OMAR NARVAEZ. I'm so desperate for anything better than James McCann at this point, however, that I see OMAR NARVAEZ, and I quite literally care very little about his injury riddled and inconsistent 2022 campaign and expect him to get back to hopefully being a 250 tops 260 plus hitter. Again, looked really, really good in large parts of the 2021 season, and the Mets definitely see chances for him to bounce back there. Dean, thank you for the donation. What do you predict Alvarez pans out this year? DH only versus lefties. It's really going to be indicative on how that ankle's looking, Dean, and how great he looks in spring training. I don't really have a prediction for Alvarez. I just know I expect Alvarez to get a good chunk of playing time next year. It'll just be indicative on if it's strictly DH in a platoon role. Is it actually gain more catching time because his defense makes major strides? We'll see. His framing is way better than McCann. Yep. McCann started off last season looking solid with framing and then fell off a cliff. So bad. Okay. OMAR NARVAEZ in the 2022 season as a left-handed hitter, folks. We have found another factor as to why the New York Mets acquired this man, and let's get to it. Actually, it's not much, at least from the 2020s. Actually, it's funny. His 2022 splits are nearly identical. Lefty versus righties with around a 600 OPS, low 200 average, 333 OBP against lefties, though. So lefty on lefties actually was better. Let me look at his 2021 splits. Let's see how drastically different they are with the assumption that he has a bounce back season. And if he doesn't, then he doesn't. Then the Mets, again, will have, a not great looking offensive platoon. More Nido leading the way than Narvaez. But there's just something about lefty hitting catchers I've always been enamored with. I don't know why. I've always liked it. Okay. So, the Mets did not get this guy to be a lefty killer, especially as a lefty bat. In 2021, in his better hitting year, absolute dog shit against lefties. 53 games, 152 batting average, 434 OPS. Against righties, 290 average, 365 on base percentage, and an 805 OPS. So when OMAR NARVAEZ is his average self, he is really, really good against right-handed pitching. And if we look at Tomas Nido's splits, let's do that right now. I feel like Nido has solid numbers against lefties as long as he's not getting fooled with the back foot slider, which has happened. So let me check Nido right now. But yeah, you're looking at Narvaez. He's a guy that's definitely a better matchup lefty on righty than lefty on lefty. Mets won't get no one big for the McCann trade. It doesn't matter. I don't care if they get a freaking piece of paper back, dude. Like, it doesn't matter. They could get a trash can for McCann, and I'll be happy at this point. You just want him off this roster. And question to everybody, too. Does anyone think there's any possibility at all? Again, I hope this doesn't happen because it would seem foolish, right? Does anyone here think that the Mets could trade Tomas Nido because his value is far greater than McCann's? Does anyone think that? I personally don't see a world where that happens. I really don't. But does anyone think that Nido could be dealt for something that betters the team overall? That's an interesting point. I don't think it's going to happen, though. I think that's at the bottom of the barrel of options that'll happen here with this. Why would they trade Nido? My point. I'm just, you'd hope that they can get rid of this McCann deal. It's going to be easier said than done. McCann trade official. We got a cheesesteak in return. Oh, so he's going to the Phillies. That's fine. Him and Real Muto together. Tomas Nido, by the way, folks, in 2022, 260 batting average, 669 nice OPS against lefties. Better than 100 OPS better than against righties. So Tomas Nido, with these, let's go right now with the hypothetical that the Mets catching tandem to start next season is Narvaez and Nito gain the bulk, and then Alvarez given opportunities as DH or in different scenarios. Let's just talk about that hypothetical, okay? I would imagine that you're going to see Narvaez bat mainly against righties, and then you're going to see Nito bat more against lefties. I think Nito still deserves more time than Narvaez. But it could kind of be close. It could be like a 55 45 type thing. If I do my math correctly. Did I do my math correctly? Yeah, I think so. 55 45. Help me out here. I'm a kind of stupid, so Nimmo will be the Mets next captain. Yeah, I fully expect that. I've been known that for a while now.